friends, exclusive coverage of the Budweiser Top Fuel Classic is brought to you by Pep Boys. 26,000 items at the guaranteed low price. Tires and service too. Everything but gas. And by Peerless Faucet. Get more out of your faucet than just water. Corey Mack certainly has given everybody something to shoot at here in round number one. First of all, he did a good job of driving. Secondly, a big ET. There's another great matchup coming up. It's a rematch of the finals from 1995. 1995 saw Larry Dixon try to cap his dream season with a win in the Classic. Scott Coletta had him flat out covered, and then he broke, and Larry Dixon drives by to get the win. After the red lights start, and Larry Dixon with a big win and $100,000 and an opportunity to go double up if he could come back and win in the Winston Select Finals on Sunday. Great year for Larry Dixon last year. Let's take a look at how these two guys did in their round one match. There's your defending champion. It's the Miller team. It's Larry Dixon, who had a brilliant rookie season. Earned himself the Winston Rookie of the Year honors last year. 1996 has not been quite as kind. One win for the Don Prudhomme team. And Scott Coletta in the American International Airways car in the other lane also. Just one win on the 1996 campaign. And it's stunning when you take a look at the quality of these two race cars and realize they've only been in winning circle one season. Frank Hawley won the first Big Bud shootout in the funny cars, and Frank, you got to really be excited about what you saw Corey Mack do. That's why the drivers really deserve those big paychecks.
Well, you know, a lot of times the person who wins is the person who makes the fewest mistakes, and clearly, for whatever reason, Joe Amato made a pretty expensive mistake there, because it appeared that he had his car running well enough that they could have won this thing today. A lot of pressure on these drivers to come out here, not make those mistakes, be able to perform round after round after round within 100th of a second. And the person that can do that, the true chief that can keep the car stuck to the ground, they're going to be the team that's going to win today. I'll tell you, if you look at this top fuel race, it's almost getting as close to the pro stock competition. Bob?
Qualifying position number one for Scott Coletta. A couple of times this year, Larry Dixon did not make the number one qualifying position, but he was twice a couple of times. Dick LaHaye, a master at tuning race cars to the racetrack. And Steve Evans, I think that's the key. You got to race the track here today.
Oh, indeed you do. And let's not forget that Larry Dixon is the defending champion of the Budweiser Classic. Won it in his rookie season. For Scott Coletta, a win here today could be a season saver. They are really demoralized in that camp. They need a pump up, and this could be it.
They move them up carefully to the starting line. They will accelerate in a hurry. These cars take off like they're shot from a gun, and just like the matchup before it, one of the big cars going to bow out early here in the Top Fuel Classic. Dixon fires and falls back, loses a blower belt. Scott Coletta gets the win, 468, a great top end speed, 314 miles an hour, a 485 reaction time. Remember, 400 is perfect, so not bad. Dixon goes 502, slows to 229 miles an hour. That blower belt came off. I think he had problems before that. Watch the car on the far side of the racetrack. He was off the starting line first, yanks the front wheels just a little bit, and then start throwing some fuel out those headers early. I don't think the Silver Miller car is hitting on all cylinders from about the 300-foot mark. Bang, the blower goes, off comes the supercharger belt, and into round number two goes the Dick LaHaye tune, top fuel car of Scott Coletta.
Not a much better start for you here in 96 than you had in 95 at this event.
Well, that's for sure. You know, got by the kid, and we're going to go hopefully have some more fun today.
And a tremendous 468. You needed that, too.
Oh, that's cool, you know. We've been sort of lost here lately, and who knows? These things are unpredictable. Maybe it's going to be nice to us for a change.
Okay, good luck to you, Scott Coletta. Let's go to Frank Hawley in the Mammoth Pits here at Pomona. He's with the enemy for Scott Coletta in the Final Four.
Eddie Hill's crew has just gotten his car back into the pit area after a 4.88-second victory over a tire-smoking Shelly Anderson in the first round of competition. Now, Eddie wasn't really excited about that run. He was happy to win, but a 4.88 isn't good enough to win this race today. The crew is frantically working on the car. Eddie thinks he's got a few ideas that he could change to improve the top-end performance of the car, and they're going to do that for the next round. So don't go away, because right after this break is more exciting Bud Classic action at the Fairplex in Pomona, California.
Welcome back, everybody. The Budweiser Top Fuel Classic. We're coming to the end of round number 1. Let's take a look at the final pairing here. One of the cars everybody expects to do well. Kenny Bernstein, as he matched up with Connie Coletta. This is the way it happened earlier today here at Pomona. Coletta trying to join his son Scott in round number 2. They are on opposite sides of the ladder. If indeed he could advance, he could meet the kid in the final. Don't tell that to the red car. The Bud King. Steve Evans, I would have to say that on paper, out of the 4 matchups here in round 1, this is the one that mathematically would appear to be an overmatch. Bernstein would appear to have Connie's number.
I would agree with you on that, Bob. This morning in pre-race ceremonies, Kenny Bernstein and I were walking along the racetrack, and it looks absolutely perfect. Kenny said, I hope we have enough of this track. And his crew chief, Dale Armstrong, said, don't worry, buddy. We got plenty.
Connie Coletta, who's been doing this a long while, his best ET of the season was a 4.69 at Maple Grove. Bernstein, of course, has been in the 4.50s and arguably the most talented crew in all of Top Fuel racing right now, under the watchful eye of Dale Armstrong. The Bud King, the Prolong, the Hooters, one of the highly financed race cars coming to the starting line. He qualified number 1 4 different occasions this year. And Kenny Bernstein, along with Corey Mack right now, would appear to be the 2 hottest guys on the circuit. Of course, all those big numbers and all the hype didn't help Kenny 2 weeks ago down at Dallas when he punched the tires and put himself out in round 2. Just like that. Oh, look at that. Connie throws some sparks out, popped the blower. He's got some flames out the side of the race car, but he is going into round number 2. 484, 245, and the arithmetic not important right here. What is the spelling. W-I-N, and Scott Coletta and Connie have both advanced. And how about Kenny Bernstein right out of the gate, just like Shelly Anderson on the first pair, moves about 30 feet and then starts to smoke the tires. From there, he could not recover as Connie Coletta goes right down Broadway and into round number 2. Now watch Connie's car. You'll see the big flash come out of it, out of the left bank. And he's got big problems, but not nearly as big as the problems for the Budweiser King. 484, Connie goes into round number 2 where he will meet Corey McClenathan.
Well, Connie was all over when he smoked the tires, but you smoked the motor, but you got the win, and that's what you wanted.
That's what it's all about.
This car has actually been on par 3 times on 3 runs.
Shooting the head gasket out of it. We don't know for sure why. It just sort of all of a sudden jumped up on us once. So they can blow the head gasket out of number 1, and we dropped the compression in it. We'll try some more, I guess.
Hope you find it. Hey, Bob, what about the pairings for the final 4?
There they are. It's Connie and Corey Mack. Lane choice to the red-hot Corey McClenathan in the McDonald's entry. He's going to be awfully tough to handle. Eddie Hill, as Frank Hawley said, probably needs to go better than 88 if he wants to get around Scott Coletta. And, hey, it could be an all-Coletta final here this weekend. Let's go in the pits again and join Frank Hawley.
I'm here in the middle of the thrash at Corey McClenathan's pit area. Now, Corey just came off that great 469 first round win, but Lee Beard, Corey's crew chief, tells me that the car's actually starting to spin the tires about 1,000 feet down the racetrack. When it does that, loses traction. It takes a load off the engine and the car drops cylinders or misfires. So Lee has a few ideas for the next round. He thinks he can get this car in the low 460s. If he can, that should be good enough to put Corey McClenathan in the final of the Bud Classic. So don't go away, because after this break, there's going to be a lot more exciting action here at the Fairplex in Pomona.
Commercial transportation for this broadcast has been brought to you by Ryder, the official transportation company for Opryland. What a great first round it was. A little bit of everything there in round number 1 of the Budweiser Top Fuel Classic, and we got some semifinal stuff coming up in just a little bit, so stick around. But let's take a look at some of those things that happened so quickly in round number 1. Kenny Bernstein in that opening round, the odds-on favorite, and watch. A lot of smoke. That's not good if you're driving the red car. Kenny Bernstein came in as the prohibitive favorite right there off some big qualifying numbers recently, but a lot of smoke, and he'll be a no-show as we get set to go into round number 2. Also in that opening round of competition, we saw some fantastic numbers. Corey McClanathan getting the big win against Joe Amato. And yet Joe Amato turning a tremendous elapsed time here in this run. It did give him the number 1 qualifying position, but it did not advance him into round number 2 of the Classic. Unbelievable numbers here. And Corey Mack by a good car length. His 69 beat Joe Amato's 64. And for a guy that's a 5-time Winston driving champ, Joe Amato, he couldn't be happy with the outcome there, although at the time it did give him the number 1 qualifying position. Now, Corey McClanathan looking for his first ever Top Fuel Classic win. He'd been to the finals before, but boy, he cannot forget the way he lost to Shelly Anderson. Corey McClanathan looking to pick up the bucks, never moved on the starting line. Shelly Anderson streaked to her first ever Top Fuel Classic in front of the home crowd, and what a way for Corey McClanathan to lose. Never even got to take the car down the racetrack. So there were some great upsets, some great happenings in this and previous Top Fuel Classics. Steve?
Well, Bob, as you know, crew chiefs in this sport have to keep a constant eye on the weather, and usually that's just heat and humidity. But here this weekend at Pomona, the winds have been stout and ever-changing. For example, yesterday the wind was blowing straight up the racetrack, so a lot of the guys took a little of the attack out of this wing, make the car go faster on the top end. Today, the wind has been blowing directly down the racetrack, a Santa Ana wind, so the wings kind of went back to where they were before. Now it's turning into kind of a crosswind. I don't know what they do, but I know I'm getting a crick in my neck. Frank Hawley, you there?
As a Top Fuel driver heads to the finish line at over 300 miles per hour, he has to actually take his hand off the steering wheel lever and activate a manual chute lever. Sometimes things can get a little hairy down there, and he'd like to keep both hands on the steering wheel. A few years ago, Corey McClanathan came up with an air-activated parachute lever, and it worked quite well. Top Fuel driver Eddie Hill's taken that one step further. This button here operates an air cylinder, which opens the first parachute. This button here operates a second parachute and also shuts the fuel off. So as he heads to the finish line, if Eddie decides that he wants his hands on the steering wheel, he can stop the car and shut it off without ever removing his hands from the steering wheel. If these fail, there's a manual override system right here.
We got some great Final Four action. I guess it's semifinal Final Four action coming up. It's going to be the Colettas, Corey, Eddie Hill coming up next. TNN's exclusive live coverage of the Budweiser Top Fuel Classic is brought to you by Mopar, Chrysler Corporation Parts, and the Chrysler, Plymouth, Dodge, Jeep, and Eagle dealers who sell and install them.